and you get the emotional kind of warfare. That's the right word.
Yeah.
Emotional warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen too. But, I feel like maybe we went through a period of that, but I feel like I've got over that quite a lot, I don't really bother with that kind of thing anymore.
No.
I just kind of really, if anything I'm saying it, I'm just saying it because I think it rather than to have an effect.
I think what people need to realise, at this point in our relationship, we do know each other incredibly well. And a lot of what we're saying, although we do dig at each other, is kind of accepted and moved on from almost immediately, especially when it comes to conversations like this. There's no hard feelings left, particularly in the end. I would like to point that out. That it is just how we interact as a couple at this point.
It took me a long time to work out how to manage letting go.
And me, definitely.
Of a negative spiral. And probably I still don't do it perfectly, but I feel like I've got a lot better in the last few years.
Yeah, and me. We've both grown in that way, I think. We're both able to express exactly what's on our mind and battle it out and then go on a lot easier, I think. Not always, but...
You know what that's actually helped?
I guess we've learned.
Yeah, what's helped me is, one aspect of meditation and the sort of emptiness type of meditation, I sort of have developed the skill of using emptiness meditation mid-conversation in order to be very receptive to what the other person's saying. Not like receptive on purpose, not like deliberately listening and like that, but just emptying myself. And then, of course, you end up being receptive when you do that. And also it means you don't think of some kind of clever response to interject with, and then which just escalates it, etc. And then the other thing is, sort of the Babble meditation that I do as well also helps because a lot of what gets me into trouble is me thinking of something in my head and then saying it.
When M is being decidedly on purpose trying to wind me up, basically, and he knows, and he'll think of something clever to do in order to get a response, and I can see behind the eyes now when he's up to that. So I must say I don't think it always works these days. It does sometimes if it catches me off guard.
Well, I don't really do it these days.
No.
That's my point.
Occasionally.
With the babbling kind of meditation is that my brain does actually think quite a lot in words. And so at any given point in a conversation, if someone says something that triggers my brain to think something, it's almost like I have got to say it. I'll wait to say it, perhaps, but I've got to say it. And sometimes that gets me into trouble.
Yeah.
And so, as well as emptiness, which is useful, also the sort of babble aspect, where I'm not, if I said what I was thinking, blah, 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 it wouldn't actually make any sense to anyone. And so therefore, I've sort of I'm able to block out a lot of this chatty, reactive kind of thinking that I used to suffer from in mid-conversation. And that helped me quite a bit as well. But I think mostly it's just emptiness at the moment. V is very responsive, I think, to someone being empty on the other side.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that? I'm trying to dig a little deeper with that one, because I'm kind of getting the concept, but kind of not.
And there's the concept right there.
I didn't follow it at all. I wasn't receptive that time at all, by the way. I didn't really get it.
So just to explain it out of context, when V's talking to me, if I empty myself, then I don't say much in response, which gives her more space to express herself, which is actually kind of what she likes
in
more
some
in
ways.
Our conversations.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm asking for guidance, so it might be true that it gives me the space in some respects to think of the answer I'm looking for myself. But at other times, it is actual guidance I'm looking for, so maybe it's not quite correct. It's kind of an overall assumption that that's what's needed all the time.
No, I'm not saying that.
Sometimes that's not what's needed. It depends on the subject matter, I suppose.
Yeah, when you ask for guidance, though, often you don't like what I say, so I've learnt this too. And so, therefore, if I just empty myself, you usually like talk yourself round into something anyway, and I just sort of help you along.
Or
So you're actually just using me as a mirror.
You could even try and phrase it differently sometimes. That would help. Because M does have a tendency to be quite sharp. Without meaning to be, it's just his way, I'm sure. But
I think the main point is that with V, she has more trouble going from what she's thinking to what she's saying than what I have, because I just say what I think in my head. I just think in words.
I think that's got a lot to do with confidence, actually.
And so
sometimes I've got this 2-second thing going on where I'll think something and it might be quite derogatory or negative, and then I'll think, if I say that, what's the response going to be?
Is that a good thing or a bad?
I like to think of it as a good thing a lot of the time, and it has stopped me from getting in trouble sometimes, having that like gap between what I've thinking something in my head and saying it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? And that is something that meditation has helped me on with, I think. It's not... You see, I feel a lot of the time, if I were to just say immediately as it came into my mind, then it would be very reactionary, and it would possibly cause unnecessary conflict, which is why to M, obviously, that's sounding like it's coming across as a problem on my part, but actually I think that I actually think it's a benefit on my part to do that.
One of the things that we learned about the dynamic of our relationship is that I was quite dominant.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to try and do is stop doing that.
I don't know. I think you were dominant to a point, especially in our early relationship, but I think I kind of stood my ground after a while.
Yeah, but then it became conflicted, you see.
Yeah, and then it became like, some might see it as balance, but yeah, I don't know. It almost feels like at any given time, someone has to be dominant and someone has to be more submissive, whichever way round it is.
Exactly.
You can't have both people at the same level of balance. I don't know.
That's true. I agree. Yeah. Totally. Because what happened was you started standing up for yourself, and then we went through this period of lots of argument.
Yeah.
Because we're both at the same level of trying to dominate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I've learned recently how to do is how not to dominate, which has then created, I think, a positive effect.
And I've learned that like I said, I don't always have to be that reactionary. I can think about it for a couple of seconds before it actually comes out of my mouth, which is useful. It's like there was a situation today where M was building a trampoline, and I went up the garden in order to help. But it turns out that I was actually being more of a hindrance, and I got told. And instead of flying off at that point, I thought to myself, okay, I took a couple of seconds and then I said, right, well, I'm going to go and do something else then, you know. And the response was, okay. And then when I came back inside to do other things, I thought, well, I could feel annoyed at that point and hurt that he didn't want my help. But I don't actually. I think going away at that point was right, and there was no hard feeling. It dispersed. Otherwise, that could have ended up in a more negative kind of...
And the trampoline got built.
And the trampoline got built very successfully.
Yes. We have a different attitude to do DIY.
Yeah.
V just wants to get on with it, and I like to think about it a bit more.
And M has to study the stupid instruction manual and then take it apart and put it together several times before it's actually...
Yeah.
And basically I'm impatient about it. I just want to get on with it.
And so V's approach actually is better than mine sometimes.
It works in some situations. In other situations you need someone who's going to be more of an anorak about it.
But in the trampoline's case, I think it was definitely in my field.
Yeah. And that's how it worked. And actually, I think we're both conscious of the fact that certain things work different ways, and it's all healthy and no harm was caused anywhere. So it's a small thing, but that's just an example which was noted.
Thanks, V.
Thanks, Ian.
I love you.
I love you too. So, shall we say goodbye? It's like an hour and 17 minutes.
I do have other topics on mine, but I can't be bothered anymore, so...
Maybe we'll save that for the next one then.
Alright.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.